What's up, guys? It's Crash, and I just wanted to kind of put a bow on this whole Enders thing. My video a couple days ago was pretty big for me for my small little corner of the internet, and there's been some more information come out lately. So I just kind of want to take all the information that we have now and kind of formulate my final opinion and put a bow on it. Because when I made that original video, I didn't exactly know what was going on. It was kind of a breaking news report, like, holy shit, this is happening. So I want to talk about the implications of it, because I feel like there's a little bit of fault on both sides. But the thing that doesn't sit the best with me the most is that a large company like EA and DICE, it seems allegedly that they banned or suspended Enders for these days for behavior that actually took place outside of the game. And I'm not sure if using your account status in game is a reasonable way to police people's actions outside of the game. That's what doesn't make sense to me and doesn't sit well with me, because that kind of starts an unhealthy precedent. If they can even take it further, if they don't exactly like your criticism of the game, even if you're focusing on the game, essentially they can ban you for any kind of behavior that they deem damaging outside of the game, which is just a little bit weird. So let's start with Ender's side of it just a little bit. It appears, by all intents and purposes, allegedly he was banned because of this video. DICE's incompetence knows no bounds. And what this video is, if you guys haven't seen it, is it's basically a response to a Inside Battlefield podcast where the lead weapon balancer went on and talked about how they potentially needed to buff the G57, which is, to be fair, quite outrageous. And Enders made this video talking about him by name. And his reasoning was, well, you can talk about him by name because he introduced himself on the public podcast. His name was in there. For my personal taste, I think Enders took it just a little bit too far in this video, questioning their ability to do their job. However, I'm unaware of any rule in a TOS where you can't give criticisms of a person, their job, or anything like that. The thing that I think Enders missed in this whole situation is potentially how his community would react, right? Even though he did this 8-minute video where he talked about the issues with the game, he might have not known the repercussions of his fairly large audience taking to social media and bringing even more harassment to development teams. So I think that's kind of maybe where Enders isn't quite understanding or maybe mentioning what the impact of this video was. It's basically how his community that looks up to him as his knowledge of the game. He's an incredibly good player. He has a lot of good takes, in my opinion, on problems with the game. Obviously he should. He's put a lot of hours into it. He's incredibly skilled at the game. So I feel like we should listen to those kind of opinions. But what I don't think he took into account is how his audience who follows him could react to these developers, because anyone can hit them up on Twitter and give them a hard time. And that's where things could have probably got the most vitriolic and could have seen the biggest problem. And the only potential place that I could see sustained harassment could be coming from his community is the only thing I can figure, because 8 minutes doesn't seem like sustained harassment. If this is, I gotta be good journalist here, if this is the video in question. I also don't know if he added any more color or context to this in a stream on that day. I was unable to find anything in his stream archives. If he went even further talking about it on stream, got a little more candid with some of it and colorful with his language, I do not know that. So I'm going off what can be found online as public record. So if this is the video, I think Enders went just a little bit too far. Not sure if he broke any rules, in my opinion, but I think there was unforeseen, probably potential consequences with how his audience would respond. So I want to talk about EA and DICE's side of this whole entire thing, because I think they made some big mistakes and blunders. And I think, like I said before, I think it sets an unhealthy precedent with their reach of power and being able to target community members that don't agree with them. It just sets a really troubling precedent. And to go on further with that, what really sets the stage for this is a follower of Enders was talking to Kevin Johnson, one of the community managers, about some griefing or harassment that they were experiencing in game. And they actually showed the DM of the response that they got. And the thing that is incredibly damning to me is at the bottom, it says, "We are only able to investigate and provide sanctions when it comes to incidents within the game, such as signs of individuals following you from match to match, hacking, cheating, or vulgar or harassing messages made within the game." The key words there are, we are only able to provide sanctions when it comes to incidents within the game. So allegedly, by all intents and purposes, what Enders is saying, that allegedly he was banned because of this G57 buff response video, that's not in game. So why was he suspended in game? Why was that done? Why was that action taken? And that's the part that doesn't sit right with me. That's kind of the missteps or something that I can't get right in my head, like how that is a reasonable response from DICE. Now, what they could have done, and it could have been even more damaging in my opinion, if you think about how video games work on the internet, right? When a content creator records gameplay, posts their own videos about it, maybe takes snippets from a podcast and plays it like that, if it's not used how the company wants it to be used, generally you can do that because a lot of video game studios consider that free advertising, right? You got content creators making videos about your game. That's a good thing. It's going to get more people on board to play the game. They do still have the rights to the content therein of their video game, the namesake of Battlefield, the gameplay of 2042, and they can actually copyright strike anything that they potentially want to, is my understanding of how the rules work. So I feel like a more appropriate response, although maybe even more damaging, would have been if this is the actual video that they thought was causing a lot of that problem for them and a lot of hazing towards developers from Ender's community. I feel like they should have copyright strike the video because he did play clips of the podcast in there. He is using 2042 gameplay that they do ultimately have the rights to. So I feel like the punishment should have fit the crime in the fact of the platform where the alleged abuse took place, right? So if it happened on social media, that's where DICE and EA should have potentially taken action to make this whole thing work out. That's why the banning in-game thing does not make sense to me. It's incredibly targeted. The other thing that's incredibly frustrating about this whole thing with DICE is I actually this morning tried to get some Battlefield 5 gameplay to play behind this video, and I was actually unable to find a server without an absolute blatant speed hacking, wall hacking, aimbots, death sprinkling, killing the whole server cheater. I was unable to get in a match of Battlefield 5 this morning to get gameplay. Those people are obviously needing sanctions within game. You can follow them, you can look at their stats, you can see match to match hacking, cheating. I've sent clips to DICE to no response, and the fact that they are letting people like that continue to ruin the experience in Battlefield 5 on PC and then going out of their way to ban a content creator in game for a video that they allegedly made on YouTube outside of the game makes zero sense. It's an incredible double standard, and it's incredibly frustrating that there are people doing way more damage to folks wanting to play the game in Battlefield 5 that they are absolutely doing nothing about. There are several bans that needed to be handed out in Battlefield 5. You can go to bfvhackers.com, you can look them up, you can see their stats, you can watch them in game, just destroy entire lobbies, reset lobbies, make people respawn, and it's incredibly frustrating. So overall, how this sets for me is I feel like some good could come out of this. Ender said he's going to change the way he does things just a little bit. While I do believe in freedom of speech, I think Ender should be able to say whatever he wants to, however he wants to, but hopefully he's going to make it just a little bit more positive, because I hope his message gets across about some of the balancing issues and the problems with Battlefield, and we can get a better game the next time. So maybe he will deliver those a little bit more respectfully towards the developers, and I think honestly it's going to get more traction, and I think it's going to send his message out just a little bit better. I don't know what's going to happen on DICE's end with this. I think it's incredibly targeted ban, overreach, misstep that shouldn't have happened, but I'm really hoping once the 7 days are up that we can move on, this doesn't happen again from that end, and things can get better for the Battlefield franchise and the community as a whole, because this is just a little bit ridiculous. This is a little bit ridiculous. People should be able to make videos however they want to. I'm going to continue to be incredibly critical of this latest title in hopes that we can get it right on the next time, and we will be talking about in a video tomorrow about the missing features in the squad system and why that's going on. It doesn't make any sense to me, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for stopping by to get my opinion. The fact that you sat through this video to listen to me give my thoughts on this subject is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it so much. But over here on this channel, we're going to continue to be a respectful voice for change within the Battlefield franchise. We're going to give our opinions, why we think that, and hopefully we get a better game for everyone on the next go round. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.